Hi, this is Judy Green from Raw and Green Wellness Coaching, and I will be posting this on Facebook as well as on YouTube. I'll be reading from my notes here, so I do apologize for looking down and not looking at you for most of this video, but it was easier for me to get it on video than to write this morning because my laptop's in the office. So I had the opportunity to join a very passionate group of people, of climate warriors, I would call them, at the King's Theatre at Annapolis Royal last night. They gathered for a film called Climate Change and the Human Prospect by Andrea Vandenboer, and it was very informative. It was interesting because the tone of the people that I talked to prior to the film was somewhat, what I hear from people is that, well, what little bit I can do is just a drop in the bucket against what, the carbon situation coming out of China and much larger organizations and the corporate factor as well. So people can feel a little bit defeated. But at the end of the evening, I think there was a lot more positive feelings coming out of it. It was a very uplifting evening. So quite interesting. So the film was introduced by a Zoom call from the San Francisco Bay Area, Chissel, who is from the Drawdown organization. She joined us to kind of introduce the film. Drawdown is a term that indicates the point at which carbon emissions have been reduced enough, allowing global temperatures to trend downward. So it's not just reducing the rate at which we are messing things up. It's actually getting to the point where we're reversing them. So it's very aggressive targets. Very interesting. There was pretty much a consensus from discussion that we only have about 12 years before we hit a point of potential no return. So that's pretty terrifying on many levels. So it's drawdown.org, and there's also a book called Drawdown that I just downloaded on Audible. I haven't read it or listened to it yet, but I'm looking forward to it. So drawdown.org was formed in 2014. The first 2 years, they really focused on researching solutions. And I do like that they're not looking to play the blame game of what got us into this situation, but rather focusing on solutions on how to get us out. They have completed a top 20 list of things that we can do. Interestingly enough, that 8 of the top 20 are food related, which really spoke to me because, as many of you know, I'm all about food sovereignty, sustainability, local, real whole food, primarily plant-based, but, organically and ethically raised and processed. So all of those things all factor in reducing food waste and using our food resources much more efficiently. The research now continues, and they have 6 full-time staff and over 70 researchers. They partner with a number of different organizations and have in fact entered into a memo of understanding with our local Center for Local Prosperity here in Nova Scotia. So it's really, what I took from the evening is that Nova Scotia is really a leader in this area. I'm very proud to be amongst some amazing people in that room last night. I was certainly there for absorbing all the information. So it's very clear that there are solutions. They exist, they're known. However, communities must come together to implement local, sustainable investments in the future. Decentralization of our power systems and a sustainable food supply, smart harvestry and management of our forests are key. There was a focus on land use to sequester carbon. That speaks directly to us here with the clear-cutting situation here in Nova Scotia. What we eat, food waste I mentioned, and forestry are vital. We need to identify and support global drawdown communities and initiatives and partner with them. Whose notes I don't have right in front of me, but she's heading up a climate change group here in the Annapolis County, and she had a wonderful comment at the end of the discussion where she said, we need to know what each group is doing, so that we're not duplicating, so we're not wasting resources doing the same thing over and over. That really spoke to me coming from a computer science background, because we don't copy and paste. Object oriented is all about using your resources efficiently, and I certainly see this as being a similar situation, that we need to be more vocal about it and sharing that information with each other. When the movie started, it was started really talking about, in 2017, a group of climate experts and activists all gathered at the Thinkers Lodge in Pugwash, Nova Scotia, and that venue has a storied history that was about denuclearization. Was the first meeting at the Thinkers Lodge. Some of the key messages that I took from the interviews, from the movie itself. I love the Indigenous perspective, and there was two issues there. One was that the land has rights and people have responsibilities. That really spoke to me. And the Indigenous outlook of looking back and learning from 7 generations in the past, and then when you're planning and making decisions, to look 7 generations in the future. And I believe that that's a huge shortcoming in the way our politics are structured. Not that I'm saying we need longer political terms, because I think that would be not a good thing, but we need to have mechanisms in place that make it harder for a party coming into power to roll back decisions that had been put into place regarding long-term goals, climate change being one of them, any of the our resources and all of these sorts of things that are going to take time, our fisheries, all of these kind of decisions that have taken time and many years to fight to get decisions in place. A new government coming in shouldn't be able to pencil whip it out of existence in a breath. That's what it seems like from the outside of the process, I'm sure. Let's see what else here. Yes, and another thing that really spoke to me was there was a lot of talk about a post-carbon world and what that's going to look like, and really it's going to become more about local sustainable. Post-carbon just means when there isn't enough affordable oil to be able to do the things we do. We don't understand. If we look around us, the clothes we wear, curtains on our walls, even in our food, our inputs to our food, most of the fertilizers are petroleum based. When petroleum is no longer cheap, and that cheap petroleum has really been fueling the Industrial Revolution, but when that petroleum, which is a finite resource, is no longer affordable, it's going to radically change the way we have to live. And unfortunately, human beings, being what they are, kind of tend to have to be forced into that sometimes. But there was a book that I read many years ago called The Long Emergency, and it was written by an economist who had accurately predicted the mortgage crash in 2008 and the subsequent global meltdown of finances across the world. So he had some very interesting points, and I heard them echoed again today, and I think he wrote that in 2004 or something. So, 14 years later, we're hearing that again, that this is where we're going to end up having to go. And that was very interesting, because that was mirrored with learning about several Nova Scotia initiatives, one of which is Energize Bridgewater. It's where the municipal government has put forth a lot of energy and focus, and I would say vision, in pulling together alternative energy solutions for Bridgewater, including solar panels on private homes, working with and a centralized energy program so that they are providing power for the entire downtown area of Bridgewater. I recommend that you check out the website Energize Bridgewater for more information. Another one that was highlighted was Windhorse Farm in New Germany, and this is a forestry lot that's been managed for over 200 years between two families, and they've managed to do so sustainably, maintaining the ecodiversity with their practices there. So it's not like we're saying, okay, stop clear cutting and you don't have alternatives. They're extremely well researched alternatives. At this point in time, we just need to stop the clear cutting because it's an old bad habit that needs to be changed, as is the spraying of glyphosate. You know, we know that it's a carcinogen. It's now been proven in the court of law, and under the appeal process as well. Sorry, lost a word. So it's been proven under the appeal process as well. That's been upheld that glyphosate is causing cancer. So how in good conscience then can anybody in our government continue to be spraying glyphosate on anywhere in Nova Scotia? I think we need to stand up and really put our foot down and say that's enough. You know, somebody's got to use some common sense here, and this has to stop. So another couple points that I'm wrapping up here, but another couple points that I came away with was climate change in Nova Scotia has seen an increase, a 30% increase in over the last 50 years in the acidity in our oceans. And of course, acid is going to erode away any alkaline minerals such as that in our shellfish. So our lobsters and crabs, which is a huge part of our fishery, are at risk because softer shells means that they are more prone to disease and predation. So that's only getting worse. Yeah, so that I think is the end of my little notes here. But I thought that the discussion afterwards was extremely well, very, very thoughtful. You know, I was very impressed with the questions. It wasn't just fear-mongering. It wasn't like, oh, lamentation and wails. It was, this is a problem. How do we fix it? And, you know, people with boots on the ground who are ready to do these changes. So I came out of that meeting very grateful for the filmmakers and everybody who was involved in that process. And of course, the theater, King's Theater in Annapolis Royal, is really becoming a leader in these social and environmental issues by providing that location for events such as this. And I think that the people in Annapolis Royal really are attuned to this, and you know, and people came from all over the province. I was really quite amazed at how far people had traveled to come to this event. So all in all, I came away from it feeling very positive. I think that there is hope, but we do have to stand up and we do have to say, you know, let's do this. We need to write our letters to our members of parliament. We have to write letters to our municipal officials at all levels of government, municipal, provincial, and federal. We need to have our voices heard. They can't read our minds, and I can guarantee you that they will listen when they start hearing from a lot of us. And the information's out there. Amazing groups on the ground doing great work and pulling this information together. So let's keep up the good fight and learn from each other, and let's make this the changes we need to make in order to survive and thrive in Nova Scotia. Thank you. I hope you learned a little bit, and again, thank you for everybody involved.